Growing up evangelical, I definitely learned how to use fear as a recruitment tactic. But something that was a little more insidious is how that religion uses fear and develops fear even in its existing members. Um, the initial set of fear is you need to believe in Jesus or you're going to hell. So fear of eternal punishment. But once you've crossed that bridge, you said, okay, I've accepted Jesus into my heart. I am now going to heaven. Great. I think evangelicalism sells itself as now you can live in peace and joy and God's favor. But my experience was not really that. And if you grew up similar to the way I did, I'm definitely curious to hear if that's your experience as well. The way that evangelicalism uses fear and continues to develop fear, for me, a lot of it was the way that God has access to our thoughts and our intentions, and that we can have bad thoughts, and your thoughts can be considered sinful. I remember being a kid and a preteen, always having a really tough time sleeping. So I'd lie there awake at night, and that's when your thoughts race, right? And you're having a hard time sleeping, you're just thinking about the day or anything. And I think it's impossible for a growing child, preteen, teen, to not have thoughts at that time that would be considered sinful, right? You might have thoughts that are jealous, angry. You might have thoughts that are lustful, covetous. These thoughts are going to happen. And so the way that I think this religion uses fear is that this is something we really don't have a lot of control over. And yet we know that this sin of our thoughts is hurting God. That was something I was told a lot as a kid is, well, your sin hurts God. You're harming him by sinning. And look at what God did for you. He tortured his son and murdered his son. How could you possibly sin? And so you'd have thoughts that you really couldn't control very well. And then you'd have this cycle of guilt and shame because you'd feel terrible. Oh my God, I've hurt God who loves me unconditionally. What a terrible person I am. And the cycle then would continue because then I would be afraid of sinning and being afraid of having those thoughts, which of course gives you more of them. And so even though I think kind of front-facing, a lot of Christianity promises that once you're in the fold, you're just going to feel peace and love and joy. That was definitely not my experience, and fear really ruled a lot of that.